Welcome to the second edition of the Green Business Podcast. I'm Jonathan Howl, Business Energy Advisor at Coventry City Council, and I will be your host again for today's discussion. Now, during our last episode, we outlined the new Decarbonisation Net Zero programme in more detail, and also you heard from three of my colleagues who discussed how the programme works, what funding is available, what to expect from an energy audit and report, what efficiency measures we typically recommend, and what the benefits were to a business of embarking on a decarbonisation journey. Now, if you're a business who's interested in receiving and accessing support, then I'd strongly recommend going back and having a listen to the previous episode. It also contains details on how to register for the programme, which I'll outline again at the end of today's session. So today, we are going to delve a little deeper into the work being carried out into decarbonisation across the West Midlands Combined Authority. Now, just for context, for those that don't know, that's Birmingham, Coventry, Solihull, Dudley, Sandwell, Walsall and Wolverhampton. So for any businesses and interested parties, you'll hopefully learn, first of all, that you're not alone. You'll be able to understand more about why decarbonisation is so important, what work has taken place to date across our region, and what guidance, recommendation and grant support is available for our business community. So today's guest is someone with extensive experience within the energy, decarbonisation and economic development sectors. So I'd like to introduce Matthew Rhodes to the podcast. Good morning, Matthew.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Good morning. Nice to see you again. Right, let's open up then with what you would expect for a typical podcast and any Teams call we've ever been on. Matthew, can you tell us a bit about yourself and provide an overview of your, again, extensive experience in sustainability and decarbonisation?
Thank you, Jonathan. Yes, so I'm actually a manufacturing engineer by background originally. I was educated in the 1980s, but as part of something called a special engineering programme, which has its objective creating more rounded engineers who also understood economics and management and things like that. And I decided fairly early on, so 1990 from memory, to get into the environmental space as well, because that's where the biggest challenges were and the greatest opportunity to apply those kind of skills. I got into decarbonisation sustainability in the mid-1990s, working for a company called Silent Power, which was owned by RWE, developing sodium sulfur batteries for electric vehicles, believe it or not. And full-time from 2003, when I set up an engineering consultancy looking at energy efficiency in buildings and renewable energy, which I ran until 2017 in Leamington Spa.
Excellent. So you've been well ahead of the curve then in terms of the bigger picture in decarbonisation then, by the sounds of it.
Too far ahead from a commercial perspective. 2003 was a long time ago.
Good stuff. So in terms of the Combined Authority and the Black Country region, how did your involvement with that come about, and why that region? Is that where you're based, or is that just where you chose? Or give us a bit of context as to why there.
I was invited or my company that I ran at the time was invited in 2011 to write a green growth plan for the Black Country Local Enterprise Partnership, which was about a 10-day assignment from memory. Okay. And having done that, I found I was invited to various Black Country meetings ongoing, and not unpaid, just I might be interested, I guess. But anyway, so I got involved in local enterprise partnerships and subsequently became a director of the Greater Birmingham Solihull Local Enterprise Partnership. Mm-hmm. And for my sins or whatever, I ended up coordinating all three local enterprise partnerships in pitching to the government for powers over energy for the new West Midlands Combined Authority that was coming into being in about 2016 from memory. So that's my point of departure for both the Black Country and the Combined Authority. So the Black Country was the leading local enterprise partnership in demanding from government those powers for around energy. I felt it would take about 6 months and we could sort it out.
Here we are.
And here we are.
Here we are today.
About 9 years later. So.
Okay, good answer. Thank you. Now, just to confirm for our listeners, by the Black Country region, we are referring to, of course, Dudley, Sandwell, Walsall and Wolverhampton. I've got an extra question on that subject. When I was preparing these questions, I thought about why the involvement of the Black Country. Could you say that the industrial heritage of the Black Country region makes it perfect for decarbonisation? I was wondering whether that was what attracted you to that area, as well as the whole policy piece you've already discussed.
The Black Country is the heart of was the heart of the Industrial Revolution. Yeah. And for a manufacturing man like me, it's where it all started and where a lot of it, much to my surprise in some ways, because I thought the world kind of ended for UK manufacturing in 1979, 1980, and it was all done and dusted almost before I came out of school. But no, the Black Country is the heart of all of that. So there's a greater preponderance of businesses in the Black Country that rely on energy as core to their business. There's a greater number than I think, well, certainly the West Midlands and almost the whole of the UK. And we may come back to that later in the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, good stuff. Thank you. So just focusing back onto our new decarbonisation net zero programme, how, obviously you've been involved in that a lot, how is that designed to help businesses in the West Midlands area? What's the general objectives of the actual decarbonisation net zero programme?
It's to help businesses reduce their energy costs and be more competitive in a world which is heading towards net zero. So I've always taken a very commercial line to this. So for me, it's about competitiveness and cost saving on your energy bills. And decarbonisation is simply a given. So the world is decarbonising. How do you compete in that world?
Yeah, excellent. Getting us set up for the next sort of 20, 30 years, basically moving forward. Fantastic. So in terms of back to the Black Country area, I'm interested to sort of expand on what initiatives you were involved in within the Black Country LEP, such as establishing the Black Country Industrial Cluster. Can you give us a bit of background to that out of interest, please?
Sure, of course. So I've already said the Black Country LEP was the leading light in getting energy as part of the Combined Authorities brief, which is unique in the UK. So the other combined authorities didn't have energy. We subsequently bid for a programme called the Industrial Decarbonisation Challenge Programme, which was a government programme which dates back to Theresa May. So it gives you a sense of when that came out. To decarbonise. Yeah. And government put aside about £500 million for industrial decarbonisation. And it then applied a kind of Pareto principle and said, well, if we decarbonise the 50% most emitting companies in the UK, will be doing pretty well. And helpfully you can get to 50% of UK emissions with 55 companies, and they're located on the coasts of the UK. But I phoned the government and said, isn't the Black Country Industrial Cluster as well? And they said, yes, you can bid if you like. So we bid and we were successful, and we became part of the National Industrial Decarbonisation Programme. And I was leading that project with a partnership, including Warwick University and Birmingham University and Loughborough University. So it's a combined 9 different organisations.
That's a good point, actually, because one of my other follow-up questions to that was, obviously, in order to achieve success, I think collaboration and network is paramount to that. Do you think that the links between academia and businesses is key to that success as well?
It's very important, but they have to be the right links. So it's about business telling academia what it needs and what it wants. So there's a little bit too much in my experience. I've done a lot of innovation projects in previous lives as well in the West Midlands, collaboratively, almost always with the university as part of the team. It worked best I've worked with all the universities in the West Midlands. It's worked best when the project's been very clear what it needs from the university, and it's found the right person in the university to deliver what the project wants. Universities or university people they're focused on their needs, which you would expect. And there's many of them, and if you find the right one and align those needs, that's great. If you find the wrong one, they will probably do what they want rather than what the project wants, and handling that relationship is where you need to be careful.
You lose sight of the bigger picture, basically, I imagine. I mean, work within the Coventry area, we've always had very, very strong links with Coventry University, been very successful, especially under the ERDF programmes, and it's key to work together to that common goal rather than going off on your own little tangent, isn't it, basically, moving forward?
Yeah, so I did an excellent project with Coventry University a few years ago using it was a gamification. It was actually refurbishing a block of flats in Solihull with a combination of partners and other West Midlands companies to make it a passive block of flats. So I'm probably going back nearly 10 years now. But anyway, you pull the right team out of the right university to do the job.
Okay, good stuff. Thank you. So just bringing it back down more local now in terms of the conversation. As I've said before, I'm an energy advisor working at Coventry Council, helping SMEs in the main. Now, when I'm out in the field, which I really enjoy, it's a part of my job that I like the most, meeting companies and seeing where we can help. Main measures that I identify as part of my reports, as you would expect, LED lighting, solar PV, heating improvements, those kind of things. Out of interest, in possibly just in terms of SME, but maybe expanding it a bit to more larger companies. Is that true of the Black Country region as well? Are there parallels there in terms of the recommendations and what can bring that carbon down, or is there something more quirky maybe in the Black Country area that you're looking at?
I would say it's less quirky than, it's just slightly different. It varies as well between types of business, and the Black Country's still got an awful lot of energy intense businesses who use heat for the core of what they do, whether it's making bricks or bending metal or melting metal or whatever. So a lot of the recommendations in the Black Country will be about compressed air, for example, electric motors on your production lines, furnaces, gas furnaces that might become induction electric furnaces. I think across the UK industry as a whole, a statistic I happen to know is that 9% of the energy use is actually space heating, and lighting and computers and things are another 3 or 4%, I think, at most. And the bulk, so over 85%, is process energy actually used in producing the product that goes out of the door. And if the cost of that are 4 times what they are in Germany, or twice what they are, 10 times what they are in some parts of America, then you've got a real competitive disadvantage, haven't you? So it's finding ways of reducing that cost without damaging your manufacturing process or changing the process so that your whole business is taking a massive risk. And if you switch from a gas kiln or a gas oven to an electric oven or an electric kiln, you are changing the process subtly, and you need to understand how to do that. So in the Black Country, for this programme, we've got a team of energy auditors, assessors, who are quite often experienced in that space. They're manufacturing engineers. They've run manufacturing businesses. They talk that kind of language. A lot of the advice can come down to monitoring how your machines are using energy and making sure they're not turned on at the right time, for example. Of course, you do LED lighting as well. Of course, you put solar panels on your roof, but you have to put that in the context of your overall energy use as an operation.
That's a really good answer. So just for our listeners listening to this podcast, we have key staff that can help in your key sector, which is fantastic. And also, just for the context, I as an advisor tend to carry out what's called one of our standard audits, which is, as I've said, it's looking at the building fabric and that kind of thing. We do also have high intensity audits available for those bigger energy users above a certain energy spend and above a certain percentage of their turnover spend on energy, that can be more granular and look at the data in more, looking at things like the process heat recovery, process improvements, those kind of things as well. So we do have the expertise to help your business if you're out there listening and want to get involved with us, basically. So thank you.
And again, I believe we have about 4,000 such businesses within the West Midlands region, and we have more than any other region in the UK.
Good stuff. Thank you. So in terms of, we've skirted onto collaboration between business and academia earlier on, but in terms of collaborative projects from companies within different parts of the West Midlands, what sort of other projects have been successful in our region, other than our decarbonisation net zero programme, that have driven success in terms of the whole decarb agenda?
And going back in time over the last 10 years, there's been some quite substantive projects through, I think, a programme called Prospering from the Energy Revolution. So that had a project in Sandwell about heat networks and ways to develop heat networks in collaboration across the West Midlands, but also with Islington, as I recall, so London Borough. Project in Rugeley, low carbon Rugeley, looking at ways of developing the ex-power station site there with housing and other facilities. Projects in Coventry, looking at whether the gas company and the electricity company could relate in a better way to City Council to make sure that the energy system was optimised really for the local people and the local businesses.
Good stuff. So there's lots, just for context then for our listeners, there's lots happened and there's lots happening moving forward as well. And we're hoping that the decarbonisation net zero programme will build on that previous success as well. So thank you. So back to the West Midlands Combined Authority area as a whole then. Are there, and we have skirted on this briefly as well, but I'll ask the question again anyway. So are there any specific industries in our area that face unique challenges when it comes to decarbonisation? I'm thinking of foundries as a point which you've already skirted on. Is there anyone out there that has that sort of unique issues and unique barriers to decarbonisation, in your opinion?
I think in many ways they're all unique. I'll say that as a start.
Okay, fair enough.
A business is a business that's focused on what it does. So they're all different and all unique. I think businesses that face the biggest commercial challenge, energy-related commercial challenge over the next 20 years, and it's going to get closer all the time, are people who use gas for their processes, or who have carbon embedded in their process. There's a cement works in Rugby, Cemex, and the cement manufacturing process generates more carbon in that. It's the chemistry. You generate carbon. So you need to be able to get that away. If you're making bricks, if you're melting aluminium, you do that with gas, and you won't want to switch to electricity. So you've got a problem because you've got to find new bits of kit that might do that for you, or you've got to get hydrogen, and the more complicated problems are simply energy efficiency in those cases. So yes, everyone's special, but some people have got bigger problems than others.
Yeah, that's a good tagline for the podcast. I see everybody out there, you're all unique, but we can help. We're unique as well, and we can help you with your individual challenges. So get in touch, basically. Okay, just drawing from your experiences, and I'm trying to make this into a bit of a bigger context here. What are some valuable lessons that the UK can learn as a whole from what we've learned within the Black Country and the West Midlands Combined Authority? I mean, obviously we've got the 2050 net zero targets from the government and so on. Can our experiences help drive the national agenda towards reaching net zero?
So this is a national pilot, first of all. So the outcome of that 8-year process, many people involved, was that the government decided to fund this programme on top of the Shared Prosperity West Midlands to the tune of about £35 million. So we are leading the country, and we are a pilot as to how to make this work. I think from the Black Country perspective, it's always been, going back over a decade now, this isn't directly about decarbonisation in the sense of we've got to save the environment, taking that as a given. It's about commercial opportunities and competitiveness in a decarbonising world, and finding new markets and new opportunities there, whether it's electric vehicles, better fuels for aerospace activity and so on. Basically decarbonising. A lot of work to be done in infrastructure. So energy networks, low carbon energy networks, there's product opportunities. There's a lot of lessons we can learn about partnership and getting the public sector on side. And I think here about the Americans and the EU and the Chinese, and as communities, as cultures, the culture there has got kind of buys what I'm saying. So I'm not being original here, and they're using the transition to net zero as a way of building their industrial bases, and actually using it as a protective measure through the various acts, the Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, for example, those kind of things, the Inflation Reduction Act in America. So we need to be a bit cuter, really, about linking business to government and to local authorities and to regional authorities, and taking the opportunities there are to make money out of this and support our businesses. And I'd like to see a bit more of that, really. And I think that's a lesson. I think there's also something to be learned about getting the balance between, and this is a whole topic in its own right, so I hesitate to start it, but a lot of this can be done through digitization, and some of the work in this program is about capturing data and giving it to the MD of a company so they can see where energy is used in their factory, for example. There's some really good tools out there now. It's about getting the balance between that kind of digitization and humanity right as well, because there's an art as well as a science to this whole game. And I'd like to see that balance being done sensibly, not too much digitalization, not too much humanity, if you like, but the balance between the two.
Understood. And within that, then, what role would innovation and new technology play with the bigger decarbonisation piece? We all read articles. I mean, if we're in the industry, we're all passionate about sustainability. We're all hearing things about carbon capture and hydrogen and all these buzzwords. Effectively, the West Midlands is a very innovative region. Will new tech play a key role in achieving the goals as well?
Absolutely. So getting information to the right people in the right way. So digitalization, the technology associated with that, not just the kind of acquire the data, provide it to somewhere sort of technologies, but also the technologies for being able to pay for things and contract. So one factory being able to sell the spare energy from their solar system when they're not producing to next door, and being able to meter that and charge it, and everyone being happy, and the whole sort of technology around that. I think there's quite a lot of work to be done. It needs to be regulation as well. There's opportunities there for our region. I think it's an obvious statement to make, because we're in the middle of the country. A lot of the novel infrastructure for offshore wind farms isn't really relevant. The carbon capture infrastructure, the hydrogen infrastructure, the government are already investing significantly in coastal regions, a long way away from us. But we've got the skills and we've got products and technologies that can go into those markets, and we need to be identifying what they are and investing in companies that can supply them.
Okay, thank you. So back to the programme, back to the decarbonisation net zero programme. How valuable, in your opinion, will the support and grant funding be? And I'd like to add a sub-question to that actually as well. And this is something that I look at when I'm dealing with a new inquiry. Do you feel, in your opinion, that the support and the guidance is more important than the grant itself? Or is it vice versa? What I find is that, in my experience, it's the grant that attracts the interest. And then it might not just be about the money, it's about the actual support that we give. You hook people in, and the interest is gained by advertising free money in brackets, but then it's about the support that we offer as well. Which is more important, or are they both as important as each other, is where I'm going with that question.
Well, yeah, so obviously it varies to the case. I can think of many quite large businesses who've used grants to subsidize basically something that they might secretly have been planning to do anyway, like a new production line that's twice as efficient as the previous one. These grants can be applied in that kind of way. There's a better way of handling a compressed air or whatever, and if you play your cards right, you can get your grant. So I also think we have cases where the advice has really, it can take you a long way very quickly for not a lot of money. At least two companies I know of in the Black Country where they've had this kind of advice. One of them saves hundreds of thousands of pounds, albeit on an energy bill that runs into millions, but hundreds of thousands of pounds well within the 12 months. They're a plastics business and a foundry business as well in one business, and another business that makes, I think, pipes for gas pipes and things like that, and simply monitoring energy use. The MD said that she'd saved the cost of the metering to monitor the energy use within 6 months. But if you add that to the grant and the advice, so you know what to meter, and you can get 50% grant towards the metering, then you're really onto a winner as a business, aren't you? And you should really be looking at this. So that's precisely the kind of project this scheme should be supporting.
Absolutely agree. And that's what we do. When I'm out in the field, that's exactly what we're looking for. We would produce an energy report which will show savings. Very often it's behavioural changes, metering, those kind of things, as well as the nice new shiny tech, the solar panels and the LED lighting. It's about the bigger picture. So for anyone listening, that is exactly what we can help with moving forward. So we're wrapping up. You'll be pleased to hear, Matthew. So I've got one final kind of open-ended question, really. What do you foresee as the next big challenges and opportunities for companies in our region in their journey towards net zero? What sort of challenges and opportunities are out there? And what will be needed to help drive that forward, in your opinion?
I think once you've done what we're talking about today, which is kind of first base, is energy efficient, be efficient at what you're doing. I think there's a realization that people need to come to terms with, that this is actually an epoch-defining change, isn't it? We're moving the whole world here to a net zero world. That means fundamentally different things. For a place like the West Midlands, built on fossil fuels, built on coal. If you can't do that, then the region will be doing something different. Your business might be doing something different. There are whole new markets out there, and you should be thinking a little bit about that and how you exploit them. And that's a challenge for this region in particular. But our asset, if you like, is one of the world's most innovative regions in terms of large numbers of people doing lots of stuff. And it was built on innovation as well as coal. And we've still got that innovation, even if we haven't got the coal. So I think we've got many of the conditions in place to make a success of this, but we need to not put our heads in the sand. We need to recognise the fundamental change that's ongoing and take advantage of it.
Okay, good answer. Thank you. I'd like to just add a couple of points to that as well for our listeners. Those that have been on these podcasts before or been on some of our webinars will know that what I would call soft benefits to the whole piece as well, better community engagement, retaining key staff, all of these nice little soft benefits as well, which will also add to the bigger picture as well as the pure economic drivers. So it's about setting your business up to be more lean, greener business moving forward, hopefully winning more business in terms of your supply chain and tenders and so on and so forth. So it's important to look at the bigger picture moving forward as well. Lovely. You'll be glad to know that's all of our questions. They were fantastic answers. So thank you very much for expanding on my questions so well. It was really interesting to have you on the podcast. So just to draw to a close then, just to quickly confirm, we do have grants of up to 50% available to help support those capital outlays. So please get in touch. Details on how to register to the programme and links to our website will be in the podcast description. Our next event will be a webinar scheduled for the 18th of January 2024. Thanks for listening to everybody that's out there today. Thank you for your time today, Matthew. I'm Jonathan Howl, and best of luck with your net zero journeys.